Daniel Ricciardo has made it known that he won't race in 2023, but that doesn't mean he won't be present in the sport. He has made his ambitions known, and they're to come back in the 2024 season and possibly inherit a spot on a top-performing team. However, reality and his hopes are two different things, and we're very unlikely to see his wishes come true. But hope dies last, and there is hope for Ricciardo that his F1 career isn't over. One of the teams that he was linked with constantly is Mercedes, and the team spoke about the Aussie recently and the possibilities of him being their reserve driver. Ricciardo's tenure with McLaren hurt him more than he could have possibly imagined. The two bad seasons with the Woking-based team, as well as the way he left Renault just to join McLaren, were probably the factors that contributed the most to Alpine's decision of not even thinking about signing Ricciardo in the first place. Nevertheless, it goes without saying that Ricciardo is still capable of driving an F1 car, but isn't really keen on jumping into any F1 seat that will be offered to him. This is why he denied the only vacant seat F1 currently has, and that is Haas. Steiner was very confused as to why Ricciardo doesn't want to drive for the team, especially now that they're in good form and are looking to bag more points from 2023 onwards. Still, the reality stands as it is, and as of now, our only chance of seeing Ricciardo race in Formula 1 is from 2024 onwards. A far-fetched scenario, we must say, especially given the fact that none of the top teams have a guaranteed seat for him. Perez's contract ends in 2024, but he's been a pivotal part of the team's recent success, and Red Bull is on track to have a 1-2 finish in the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari could possibly see a shakeup in their own lineup, but that would be Ricciardo betting on clouds that the team will take him, even if some of the drivers are to leave the Maranello team. What Ricciardo hoped for the most is Mercedes, and based on his hopes, Hamilton should retire from 2024 onwards due to the fact that the team won't be competitive and won't be able to win a championship. Talking about far-fetched scenarios, huh? Well, Mercedes has opened up on the 8-time race winner, saying that they are delighted that a driver like Ricciardo would consider the reserve driver role in their team. After all, they do have some free space available now that De Vries has signed with AlphaTauri. But what does Mercedes have to say when it comes to them? What is their decision on Ricciardo's venture as a reserve driver for Mercedes? For us, we very much like him. He's a great character. But we're not in a position yet to decide who's going to be reserve and third driver. His personality and experience would be really advantageous to any team that Ricciardo works in from the next season. But I don't want to put any rumors out there because we haven't decided. Yes, Mercedes hasn't decided as to whether or not they'll pick up Ricciardo, but if we see that both of their reserve drivers have left the nest and they don't have anyone to test the W14, which is promising to be a championship contending car, then rest assured that Ricciardo will sit high on that list. What we don't clearly understand is Ricciardo's decision to sit out a year. True, if he joins Haas, he will be there just for the paycheck and to collect points for a team that is on the rise. But a rise doesn't necessarily mean podiums, and Ricciardo would be stuck in the same place that he was stuck with McLaren. The only difference would be that the McLaren car was able to provide him with a massive amount of potential, and he wasn't there to use it due to the fact that he wasn't able to adapt to it. Nevertheless, Ricciardo said that a year off is exactly what he needs in this moment, and he wants to take the time necessary, keep a bit of distance from the sport, and rebuild himself. What's even more interesting is the fact that he wants to continue in F1, and he won't be visiting other championships like NASCAR or the Indy 500 because ovals scare him. Wolff also said that Ricciardo is in talks to be a reserve driver for Red Bull, apart from the talks he has with Mercedes. This would mean that Ricciardo will bet on Perez's seat, and what does he need to do in order to make this happen? For starters, he would have to put in some great times as a reserve driver. Often reserve drivers are underestimated because they're used to just sense the car and how it operates. However, sometimes the reserve drivers are being so fast and so productive with the car that one couldn't help but notice that they deserve to be the ones starting. Not that Ricciardo would have to prove himself, given the fact that he has proven to us multiple times that his place is in F1. But in order to replace Perez, you would have to be much better than him in terms of lap time and performance. And if this is achieved, then you'll have another bigger challenge ahead of you, and that is to outpace the youngsters. We know that Red Bull is a team that likes to give opportunities to youngsters. That's how Ricciardo, Verstappen, Vettel, and even Gasly had chances to perform for the team. Some of them lived up to the expectations, while others had 13 races and went back to Toro Rosso. Nevertheless, Ricciardo would have to battle the potential of Tsunoda and De Vries, which would be truly a challenge, given the fact that Red Bull will likely prefer to sign a youngster and give them a chance to grow, rather than bet on old glory. The Mercedes tenure is something that Ricciardo could utilize well in order to prove that the 2 years at McLaren were just him being at the wrong place at the wrong time. If he manages to outpace the top drivers as a reserve one, then rest assured that he will be considered a starting driver for any of the teams. Ricciardo is far from retirement, and although there aren't many drivers that have successfully completed a sabbatical year, Ricciardo can join the likes of Alonso, Raikkonen, Schumacher, and Magnussen. And at the end of the day, it goes without saying that Ricciardo's best chance to stay in Formula One is to accept the vacant Haas seat. We know that he denied it multiple times and said that he wouldn't be on the grid in 2023, which is why the USA-based team has started to look in other directions, such as Nico Hülkenberg. But imagine that Ricciardo takes the reserve driver role at Mercedes or at Red Bull, and his plans to make a comeback in 2024 are hindered by the fact that he hasn't performed well, or the team has decided to go in another direction. Hamilton already said that he wants to continue for at least 5 more years with Mercedes, so in reality, Ricciardo doesn't have much left to hope for. Then the only seat that he could possibly achieve would be, yet again, on a team that won't be capable of scoring podium finishes or wins, which is literally Haas right now. Ricciardo's knowledge could be the deciding factor when it comes to him being considered as a starting driver for the team, and on top of that, he could be crowned with the number 1 driver role due to the greater experience he has and the race-winning mentality he brings to the team. But then again, we're going back to reality, and the reality stands like this. Ricciardo's only aiming for the reserve driver seat in 2023. It pains us to say it, but we might see the last of the Honey Badger in Formula One, and everything started to go south for the Aussie once he left Red Bull. He isn't going away from the sport, that's for sure. His intentions are to stay here for as long as he can, and in a role that he sees fit. However, this could take a toll on the chances of his comeback season in 2024, given the fact that Formula One is a very competitive sport and Ricciardo cannot hope that he'll be accepted into a team just for the sake of the old times. With that being said, it's up to us to wait and see what will happen with Ricciardo. Will he accept the reserve driver role at Mercedes or Red Bull, or are we currently seeing the last of the 8-time race winner? What is your opinion on this matter? Let us know in the comments below.